On this podcast episode, I meet the inspirational Denai Moore. She's a musician and a food creative. We talk about how to turn our creative side hustles into our full-time gig. We talk about living intentionally in our artistic truth. We talk about how not to get swept up with perfectionism and what's trending and what's popular, but to stay on track and be our creative, authentic selves. We talk about the power of community and how that nourishes us. And we talk about how to live with and sustain joy when the world is on fire. I got so much richness from this conversation, and I hope you will do as well. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, Denai. It's an absolute delight to have you on Meet the Vegans. I cannot believe that we've not had a conversation before because our lives have really overlapped. So you've both been a musician and a foodie, and that's been exactly my life journey as well.
I didn't know that.
I was a reggae dancehall music journalist.
No way.
For 10 years.
Amazing. Wow.
And also grime and jungle and all that kind of thing. And music was my life for a long time. And then I transitioned to running a vegan community cookery school. And obviously you transitioned into running Dee's Table, an amazing vegan food pop-up supper club, all-round experience. And yet this is the first time we are getting to speak.
That's wild. I didn't know that. That's crazy. I think there is like a correlation between food and music, like creatively. There seems to be a lot of chefs that I think it's like intertwined. A lot of chefs are also musicians, and a lot of musicians also love cooking or kind of have been doing that transition as well. I don't know what it is.
One of my questions was, what is this interconnection between food and music? Is it something about the sensory aspect of it, the creativity being in our hands and heart? I don't know. What is it for you?
I think it's definitely to do with the creativity. And for me, I guess, it's like an internal dialogue, with music, like I'm able to actually be on my own, which feels really strange. I think, you shut out the world and you make something for yourself first. And I think food is still, even though like there's an element of sharing, which again, in a similar way to music, like you share the things that you make, right? Or like when you're performing, like there's an audience. I feel like food as well, there's that sense of community and you kind of make something and it brings people together. I think they're similar. They're very similar to me.
Absolutely. And that makes me think of the phrase soul nourishment.
Yes.
Music and food can both be soul nourishment.
Yeah, it is nourishing. And it's so funny. I was talking yesterday about music that shaped different parts of my life. And it's really special how like something can take you back to like a really specific time. And I think in many ways, again, food, like smells, sensory, like I have so much nostalgia over so many specific things that's embedded in my childhood that even like, what's interesting, when you try the things sometimes that you had, that you loved as a child, it doesn't taste the same as the memory.
Of course.
Of the food.
Out of context.
Yes.
Who gave you it? What was the situation? Was it a treat? All those things have changed.
Yeah. And the taste buds and like, but I find that really fascinating that sometimes the memory is like better. And sometimes even, I guess we choose what we remember as well, right? I think that's how memory tends to work.
Sometimes we need to. That can be a survival thing. Edit our memories.
Yeah, it's definitely a survival thing. But also, I think, I don't know, when we look back at past versions of ourselves. I'm only saying this because yesterday I literally did do this. Like I was like literally looking at a photo of me. Like I was doing this like, I was doing this thing where I had to look back. It was like a part of this thing I was doing. And it was like 18-year-old me and then like 23-year-old me. And it's like in the time you don't like, it's interesting. Like I'm looking back with the perspective of like both remembering that version of myself, but also I can give myself that kind of grace space, and it's just really fascinating. And I'm obsessed with archiving. That's like my thing. I'm an archiver, mainly for personal kind of, just for me, like I think it's really important to photograph yourself and the people around you like in real time.
Is that a bit like journaling for you in some ways?
Yeah, it is. It's exactly that, because it's like, I don't know, I'm obsessed with film photography. It's kind of like, it's like marking your place. Like, I think that's also why it is important, I guess, to write and mainly for yourself. Like, even if you're not sharing it with people, I guess that's why journaling is like so good, right? It's like make a mark and capture the moment and keep it, because like, and I'm really happy I kind of had that habit. Like, I got my first film camera in my teens and I was obsessed, and so that's when I started taking film photos. And so I just have this massive archive of like all of my 20s
for you to reflect on. Well, mine's all on I was born in the 80s, and so it's all on negatives. No digital cameras.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So film, it's like, I'm obsessed with film in that sense. It's like tangible, like the film, the colors age so well, and it just holds that moment in time. There's something
and the
really
era,
nice.
That was the aesthetic of the era, absolutely. And so, continuing to take you back a bit, you started your career as a musician at a very young age, and you
very young,
very successful. You appeared on Jools Holland. I think you were 20.
Yeah.
You got signed by Because Music, an incredible label in France. You released 3 albums, played at huge festivals. How did you sort of cope with so much success so young? Because there's a lot of media coverage, and you did,
I know,
did all the things.
Yeah, it's really weird to think about, because I guess, but I've also been, just for the context, like I've been making music, like I wrote my first song when I was like 12. So, and my dad was a musician, so he was always an example of that life. He was someone that was, growing up, he was in the studio, he was like in a band, and so he was an artist, so I'd always had that example. And my parents validated me extremely young, like at a really young age. They didn't make me feel really like it was unrealistic to do this thing. Like, nothing felt out of reach. And I think in general that's how I still feel, because like, and I tell people all the time, they're like, how did you do this, how did you do that? And I'm like, I just went for it. Like, and it sounds really corny, but like sometimes you have to put yourself in a certain scenario full throttle. Like, if you want to be a writer, you should just start writing. Like, there's no in between, like. And so when I was younger, like my teenage self, I was just like, I just had this sense of tunnel vision, like, and I guess in many ways the universe and luck, like I met my old A&R who was at Because when I was like 18, I think, and I signed and I did my first EP in my late teens. And then so it feels like, because this is over 10 years ago, so I'm not obviously more, my debut album came out 10 years ago, but it's really strange to think about. But it was like a magical experience, because like I couldn't have dreamt of Jools Holland. Like, that was insane. Like, I grew up watching it, and I remembered even, when I was gigging properly, like Leanne was like on it when she made her debut. That one really sticks out to me.
The heart must have been pumping backstage just before doing that.
Oh yeah, I had my thing was, I thought I was fine.
Right.
I thought I was fine. I was like, I'm fine.
I've got this.
And then because the Killers were also on that kind of the episode that I was on, and so just before I went on, Brandon Flowers came up to me and was just like, good luck.
I did that unravel you.
And that's like,
I don't know.
And I was like, oh my God, what? Good luck. Oh my God. And then it really hit me that I was actually about to like play live, because it is, a portion of it is genuinely live, like some of it's pre-recorded, but one of the songs that you do is like live, and they have like, it's all timed. So there's no redo. Like, you have to.
It's like doing a TED talk. You get your slot, you get your time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
going back. Yeah.
But I would have never thought in my wildest dreams. And how it works normally is like the producer just comes to a show, like, and then they offer you a slot. So they just come and they don't tell you that they come in. So I think I played at the Jazz Cafe, and the producer of Jools Holland came, and like maybe like a week later or something, I think they would have offered a slot, and I was like, what?
Wow.
It's just wild to think about, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like I've always loved music. I feel like it was handed to me in so many ways, and there's something about it. I feel like my favorite part about about it is the studio. I love the creating part of it because the gaze of the world isn't on you. It's like you and this thing. And in between you and whatever it is that you make is the journey to it. And there's something that's like very like healing in a sense, because you really have to, it's like I don't know, it's like you versus you, if that makes sense. It's like it's like a mirror, and like you can't hide from yourself. There's like this truth that comes out of you and unfolds in lyrics and music, and you record it, and it's the challenge of like, what should it be? What should it sound like? And you go on this endless journey until you get, you know, the body of work that feels about right, you know.
Where you want to arrive. You touched on a few things I wanted to talk to you about, the beginning of that, which was how you just went for it. You had tunnel vision and you just went for it. Because to an outsider looking at your creative career, you're living the dream. You're doing music, you're making food, doing supper clubs. And you're not just doing that. I can see you're involved in every creative detail.
Oh, yeah.
Every creative detail.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's lots of people who'll be listening to this, sitting at a desk, doing a job they're not really into, who are deeply creative and desperately wondering, how do I go from this, where I am now, to that, where I am creating every day as my livelihood? Any tips? How did they do it?
Honestly, like I said, with Dee's Table, like I just decided that I wanted to do it. It was a decision that I made, and I had no real experience doing this thing and you know, it was off the back of a trip to Jamaica. So 2017, I went for the first time, I would say as an adult, because previously before that I was maybe 20 or then 18, but at this time, especially for me in that moment, I remembered feeling like myself for the first time. You know, the early 20s can be very clunky and like awkward for, you know, many reasons, because it's like, what am I doing? Like, who am I? And all this kind of stuff, right? And going back on home soil, like, you know, having had this idea in my brain, like I've always been obsessed with food. Like I'd host elaborate dinner parties. I'd have people over and make like an ice cream from scratch. Like I'd do like a 5-course meal. Like I'd be really extra, and that's still my personality now. That's like kind of how I do things with Dee's Table. But I was like, how do I do this? I don't know. And so I came up from Jamaica and was just like, I'm just going to book a venue. I literally was just like, I'm just going to book a venue. I'm just going to host the supper club. I got a logo made by my friend Cressy. And I just like, and I think I had like maybe a month to prepare for like whatever it is that I was going to make. And I put the ticket up. I put up some food. I made like an Instagram page, and I put some food that I've been like cooking or like stuff, which is really funny. And it was just like, I put up the poster, and I was like, obviously no one's going to come. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why I put myself in this scenario, like 5-course, maybe it was even 6. I don't remember. I feel like it was a lot of food, just based on how stressed I was in the moment.
And it's very different preparing food for a lot of people, multiple courses than at home. So that you really set yourself a challenge to begin with. 3-courser, like that's quite a big beginner event.
I'm a deep end diver. Okay. Like I don't dip my toe in first to see what the I go straight in, and then I figure out how to swim or to keep afloat. That's how I live my life, basically.
But and so you had a couple of things in that though that might be crucial for helping people to get start. You booked the venue. You did it. You didn't procrastinate.
No.
You didn't sit with it and mull over it for a year, and you didn't maybe wait for the perfect venue or the perfect time, because this really holds people back.
People are afraid.
You booked it, you did it, and then you gave yourself quite a short time as well. It was a month. So this is happening.
I'm also a bit extremely impulsive. Right. Like I rarely, because I go off the feeling of something. And to be honest, one of my favorite quotes, I think about it practically every single day. Like I think about it so much that it even like it my brain is like constantly thinking about this. But it's basically just like, of course, how we spend our days is how we live our lives, which I think is like I think about it too often. It's like, yeah, like how we choose, like the small things we do every day is our lives. It's like how we eventually, that is what we do for the rest of our lives. So if you spend the whole time just thinking about something and not doing it, like you wouldn't have done it. So just do it, like, you know, and I guess I don't have the fear of failing. Like, I don't really care.
Just preempting so many of my questions. It's amazing. One of them was like, if you know, are going to be doing something creative, how important is it to not fear failing? And you've just gone there straight away. It's amazing. You don't fear it. You just
no, I don't, because I'm not an expert. Like, I don't feel like that's why I think it's so interesting. Like, I've been in this industry for a long time, you know, and people come up to me and they project that word onto me, the expert thing. And I'm just like, I don't feel like I'm an expert. I feel like, and not even to discredit my achievements, you know, I've done lots of things, but it's a merit of my passion and just my sense of like, I'm a trier. Basically, I'm a trier and I'm very enthusiastic, and I have something to say, and I feel like with Dee's Table, like I felt like there was something missing. Like, I created something that I wanted to exist, and even doing that supper club at the time, like a lot of the dishes were connected to memories. Like the dessert was called like Ode to Devon House, and like,
which
for
by
me,
the way is a place in Kingston. Amazing ice cream that I guess you tried as a child.
Yes, I'd grown up my whole life having ice cream at Devon House. They still don't really do vegan flavors, which I feel like is something that they should 100% change.
I agree. I interviewed a number of reggae artists there at Devon House, and people would go, let's go for the ice cream, and the manager would say that, and the artist would always be like, well, we're not going to eat it. Like, it's vegan, and they would be, yeah. Interesting. I know that reference, so sorry. You have your ice cream from Devon House, so you needed to recreate that.
So I think if I'm going by memory, it was like a dark chocolate Scotch bonnet tart with grape nut ice cream, I think, or it could have been rum and raisin, one interchangeable. And still to this day, I don't know where I can get vegan rum and raisin ice cream. I could be like tripping out. Like I don't think I've seen it that much.
Seen it?
No. And so a lot of the recipes and it's for me, it's like memory focus. It's like it's personal work, and it's not about impressing people other than myself or honoring the things that I feel that I think I want to capture in, you know, in food or what I'm making. And I think sometimes with people are too outwardly focused, they're thinking about, oh, like people are going to look at me as like, and they feel like I shouldn't be in this room. And it's like, it's not really about them. It's about you. And I don't ever feel like I'm trying to be like I'm never going to be the greatest chef, because I don't want to be. I just want to make things that make me happy and make things that honor my story. And I feel like Dee's Table is my story. It's like me inviting people to kind of my table, like my home, strangers, and in that way, I'm able to share memories and things that are important to me, and food that's embedded both in my childhood, in my adulthood, in my life. And so that is the center, that's the core of everything I do. But I do think it's interesting that now a lot of people, like, they consider me to be like this expert in some ways. And I think that's such an interesting word, that I think sometimes the words and the things that we put around anything, like, can put people like, what does that even mean? Does that make sense? I went into this because I love food and I wanted to share food with people, and so I just did it, and it kind of snowballed, right? Like, I then did, you know, markets and stuff like that, and then I did, even though the market world was 100% not for me, not with how my brain works. Like, I've got a little bit of ADHD brain, so I don't really like repeating things.
I join you on that. I definitely have a little bit of ADHD. Yeah,
I hate repeating things. Right. And if you imagine when you're like at a stall on like Broadway Market. And then someone would come in and be like, do you have that cauliflower dish that you did last week? I'm like, what cauliflower dish? I don't even remember what that was, but like, I'm doing this now. And it just didn't really work for that format, because yet people want the
regulars,
the same thing again. Yeah. And for me, I don't know why, my brain is like, it just doesn't work like that. I like the new thing. I like the next thing. I like the next challenge that's going to like...
The creative fire needs to be flowing to motivate, perhaps.
I'm just always just like, what can I do next? Which sometimes to my own detriment can be like, I feel like sometimes I'm like, what am I doing or what have I done? But in reality, it's because I'm always going to the next thing that I don't actually sit and be like, oh yeah, I did do that. You know what I mean? Because I'm always just like, I'm chasing the next idea already before I've even like had time to, you know, give myself a bit of props for doing whatever it is that I did the last time.
Just done. Absolutely. And then I think you touched on a few really important things there about it's your story. So no one else can be an expert on that. But because of social media now, because everyone's meant to create their own brand, I think that can block people from just being themselves, telling their story and starting their creative journey, because it's really easy to get wrapped up in who will like it, will it be successful, how many followers will I get, will it follow a trend? Even if you don't want to think like that, it can leave that impression on you, the way that social media works these days. And I think we have to almost put that aside, because it can stop you from just getting going, just sharing your truth.
And I also think if you're so trend focused, like you'll just get lost and you'll lose the intention of whatever it is that you're doing. And authenticity tracks, like people can see it through a screen. And it's like even the language that you use, even the words that you use, like I've always, and I guess because I'm a musician first, I feel like I have that. Like I've always, like for me, music, it's that's why I'm saying it's like similar, like for me, creative landscape, because like, you know, like all my records, like I've had that experience of making something outside of the gaze of other people. And therefore I trust my gut instinct of like my decisions and what I want to do and my story. And I understand the value of that. And so I think a lot of people are afraid to be themselves, because it's like, but this is what's selling, or this is what people are clicking on. I'm like, yeah, but that's not sustainable. Like you have to value what you want to do and what you want to say. And I think all the best foodies, like obviously Nigella Queen, love her.
She loves you back. I've seen that review. I've seen that review on her website. She loves you right back.
Oh, it's very surreal and wild. Like I would have never thought in a million years that would have ever happened. But for me, she's someone that I'm just like, what an icon, right? But even just, she's so herself in a way that like, of course she's had this long career, because she's not trying to be anyone else. Like she's not following a trend. She's not doing that. She's Nigella. She's like, and even the Miko Ave thing, right? That's so iconic, but it's not scripted. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, that is just so her. And it just captured the nation. And like, you know, for months, if, you know, everyone was like stuck on that Miko Ave thing, right? But it's stuff like that I think, like, I'm not interested in chasing any trends. Like I just want to do, like I look internally and I think about like what I want to say, what I want to do, what do I value, like what's important to me. Like I think food is storytelling in many ways. And so I think
it's music, journalism, food, storytelling.
I'm fascinated by the stories behind dishes, and I think that's kind of why I think food at the moment is in such a good spot. It's like people are doing their own unique things, like whether it's like all the best things that they love about pizza, they're doing it in their own way, or like, you know, it's, I don't know, that's more valuable than trying to chase something, you know, like
chase a trend,
chase the algorithm, chase the like.
I was given an amazing bit of advice when I was a young writer and I was writing my first non-article. It was like a story. And it was based on a real story, but it was like a chapter for a fiction book. But mine was based on a real story. And I couldn't get it out and I couldn't get started. And this old Hackney writer, a real legend, said to me, "Is it a good story?" I said, "Yeah, it's a good story." He goes, "Don't be clever. Don't worry about doing it well. Don't worry about your prose. Don't worry about your icons. Don't worry about any of that. Just tell your story." And I went home and wrote it. Didn't stop. Just sat down, wrote the story. It was a great story. And you can box yourself into a little prism if you worry too much about being good or about getting it right. Oh. All those things can just stop you, completely paralyse you.
I think it's a shame as well, but I think it's our obsession with like competition and being the best and like this thing, because it's a weird or comparison, like we're constantly comparing people or whether, and that's always something I struggled with music. People always would be like, yeah, but who do you sound like? Who would you compare yourself to? Or who would you attach? Or like, what are you making? What is the genre? How would you define this thing? And it's like people constantly trying to put you in a box because that's how we live our lives and that's how we function. We always want to categorize people and, you know, this kind of thing. And so I'm just obsessed with being myself, basically. I just want to be the most, you know, best version of me at all times. And so I don't really look to like, you know, as much as I'm inspired by a lot of people, I've got, you know, like your Nigellas or like, you know, voices in food that inspire me because I'm, you know, her career, like Nigella's career is like just so like of itself, just like impressive, you know, and I look forward to like the Christmas specials, like stuff like that, right? But for me, like I'm a playful kind of soul and I tap into that childlike version of myself. And for me, creating is tapping into the internal space. Like it's not an outwardly seeking thing. I'm trying to impress like other people when I make like anything. I'm just trying to be creative and try things and experiment. And that's what food for me, that it's like that. It's like, what if I go to the supermarket often, I don't have a plan, I get ingredients, and for me it's the fun of like what I'd create as opposed to like making the plan, if that makes sense. It's, for me, it's, yeah, I don't know, it's my childlike self that is like my muse. Like that's kind of what I'm obsessed with, you know? And so I feel like people forget about that. It's like they're constantly seeking outward like validation when I think, yeah, our child selves should be our muse, right? We should be connecting that creativity to ourselves and just allow ourselves to make mistakes or like do things that, you know, like experiment or like that kind of stuff. We forget that because that is a core of like our being, you know, in many ways. And we are kind of disconnected by that through so many different things, like people disconnected from that childlike creativity or like,
and your sense of play and
oh my god, yeah,
lack of worry about failure. I cared much less about failure when I was a child because there was less riding on it. I didn't have bills to pay.
That's true. That's also true.
Restricted schedule because I needed to look after the child. So like when I do something, I feel more like this has got a hit because I've got this 2 hours. Whilst when I was a child, time felt unlimited. And I guess on that theme, bit of real talk, how easy or challenging is it to make a livelihood out of such a creative portfolio of endeavours? Because that is another blocker for many people is, how will I pay my bills?
Yeah.
How will I pay the rent? So how have you stitched it together so it can be your livelihood?
I mean, it is challenging. Like it's not easy. It is challenging, especially because the industry is constantly changing. Like when I first started, when I started East Table and I started that Instagram page 2017, like there were no videos on Instagram. There was no reels, there was none of that kind of stuff. Whereas now, like that visual part of it has completely changed. Like TikTok, as far as I know, didn't exist. I could be incorrect. I feel like 2017 TikTok wasn't.
I don't think it did.
I don't think it did. I want to say it didn't.
Yeah.
But like TikTok, I think, isn't it that it's I don't know, people use it more than Google as like a search engine or something.
Wow.
I think so. I'm almost sure. I don't want to back it because that could be incorrect information.
They use it a lot though. Yeah.
I feel like people do, as in like people would Google stuff or like search stuff in TikTok versus Google.
I believe so, but I'm not on TikTok. So yeah.
But even that, like that's changed. And I see that a lot from the music side as well. Because it's like my last record that I put out was in 2020. And so back then, like the deliverables and the things that you like have alongside the singles and the cutaways and blah, 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 like when you're doing something is so different now. I'm like, if I was to drop something now, like you'd have to think about, like, everything changes so much around it that you kind of have to adapt and change with that too, to a certain degree. So it is tricky, but it takes like belief. It takes like shared belief. Like you really have to believe that it's the tunnel vision. And it sounds so, again, corny because the industry, any creative industry will swallow you up whole. And like, it'll, you know, like, and I learned this from a young age. And I think it was like Chaperone that was talking about this actually, like, because, you know, she got dropped, which is so weird. She got dropped in 2020, right? And now she's had this crazy success, but she had to believe, like, she went back home, she was working in a donut shop, like, she had to believe that actually, no, I'm going to go again. And same thing with Doechii, because, and for her, it was documented, and that's what's kind of gone viral. It's like she either just quit her job or she got fired from her job, and she was like almost like a vlog to herself, you know. She was saying that, no, like, I think I will be successful. Sometimes you kind of have to believe it. It's like you have to, and I don't want to say it's like delusion, like you have to be delusional, but I am so delusional. I am not in reality, like I am extremely delusional, like, because you have to be like, you know, you'd say some stuff and people are like, yeah, sure, whatever.
But you like, can otherwise stop yourself with the what ifs, the what buts, and the other things that are going to rain on your parade.
Yeah.
If you focus on those, it's like someone told me worrying was like praying for what you least wanted to happen. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's that mixture of being both a little bit delusional, really positive, but then still being able to hold up your life. You know, pay the rent, pay your bills, you know, be earning enough to make it work, you know. Yeah,
100%. And even me, like, as a kid, as a teenager, I had tunnel vision about music in a way that I was just like, I 100% believed it was going to happen. Even in my circumstance, even if there wasn't really a clear path to like how it could happen, how I could be a signed artist, right? Like, I believed it to my core. Like, and you have to believe it. You have to believe in it. You have to believe in your voice. You have to believe in your brand so that you create an environment, or it's manifestation as well. It's a part of the manifestation of it all, right? Like, you have to position yourself to then, you know, have this career. Because I think creatively, there aren't really, like, as a creative, there aren't really like clear paths about, like, I feel like sometimes you create your own luck, but when you put that momentum and the work and the discipline, all that kind of stuff, like, I do believe that you will reap the rewards of it, right?
And for you, it really is every creative detail. Because when I really sat down and went through your Instagram, I was like, she's making her own food boards to photograph her food on, you know, designing your logos. Even if you're working with another designer, it's got your personality slapped all over it. You can see there's no like outsourcing, someone's going to go and do this and this for me, and then I might just choose it. There's you stamped over every, you know, the crockery you use, the vintage crockery you're sourcing, the props. Because for some people, it's not that. They make the food and then other people help with that stuff. But for you, I see that artist, that creative detail stamped over everything.
And I think also as well, like, what I will say as well, like talking about collaborators and stuff like that, it's working with people that understands you and has that similar playfulness and can see you, and it's the creating part of it. It's not like you're not like it's not a tug kind of thing. Like you're both locked in on, you're on the same wavelength, and therefore it can be easy and fun. I think there's something for me that I look for in collaborators when I do get the chance to work with people. It's something that's really nice, and I'm quite used to it as a musician. Like I understand that what a partnership can be like, you know, when you work with someone on a record or something like that. And so I love it. I'm obsessed with collaboration, like, and I push myself to do it because I always learn things, or I always get something back in return. Like, you know, I just did when did it happen? February, I think. I did like a supper club, like a tasting menu with Tendril, that restaurant, and I learned so much from that. I don't get to collab often with restaurants per se. Like I've done like kind of individual collabs with like brands, or like you know, I did a collab in 2021 with Honest Burger, and then I did a Genki matcha drink, like stuff like that feels a bit more one-off and stuff. But there's something really nice about the challenge of a tasting menu that is very thoughtful. It's like we have a story to tell. What are we going to make? I love that challenge that puts me in this kind of in the hot seat almost. But also it was a collaboration. It wasn't just me. And normally, like you're saying, yes, anything I do with Dee's Table is so, every detail is thought about, like every single detail, the names of the dishes, the like, you know, the plate, every single thing I think about, and I see it in my brain before even doing it, right? But there's something nice about doing something with someone else, and I learn a lot. I learn a whole lot. Like I have a different perspective on like, or like I get something that, like an idea that maybe I wouldn't have done, like, you know? And I think collaboration is also very valuable. Like I really encourage it.
But you are right in saying it should ideally be an easy flow where you're vibing off each other, you understand each other, and consequently the ideas are elevating rather than getting stuck. And I think if it's a collaboration where there's a lot of friction and things are getting stuck a lot, you perhaps need to question, are we the right pairing for each other?
Yeah. And I think you can kind of like, you can tell, like, and I think also when you put something out, you get things back via that kind of just the energy that you give out, right? And I feel like I've been so lucky. Like I've made such incredible friends in food that I feel like we have that similar kind of playful kind of brain. Like, you know, the Mam Sham girls, like I did just one course in like a supper club that they did with Oatly last year, and that was really fun. And they're very playful. It's very like high concept, lots of props, like really creative, and I love that. And when I went to their first supper club, I was completely blown away because I've never experienced anything like that before. They're very like, yeah, they're very maximal, like, and I love that. It's not like a half kind of effort kind of thing. Every detail in that same way is thought about, which I really admire and love. And so when we collaborated, it was just really fun to have that kind of, you know, what if my idea might be here, but then my idea might push my idea further, if that makes sense. And I think that's always a good sign when like someone pushes you beyond even what you initially would have in mind, you know?
I mean, that's the sign of something that's been truly enriching to your life when you go and you're like, ooh, that's going to push me to do this and that and fine tune that and put a little sprinkle on that. That's when you know that's time well spent, because it's like when people tell you to have friends that lift you up.
Yeah.
Like choosing to have experiences that lift you up. You know,
yeah.
Really valuable way of spending your time.
But also you have to do the uncomfortable thing. Like, I think that's also what I like everything. If I'm not nervous about something, like I feel like, am I doing enough? Like, it's like everything I do makes me terrified, actually. Like everything I'm doing at all times, I'm like, I'm nervous, but in the best way possible, because I feel like I thrive in that kind of thing of beyond what I normally would do, or something that I want to do that might be further away from me. You know, I think you learn a lot by being in that kind of uncomfortable zone, you know?
Yeah, but if the butterflies aren't there, are you really pushing yourself?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about making a cookbook, because this is a dream for so many people. I mean, there's even books about making cookbooks, which have sold hundreds of thousands of copies. That blew my mind. I was like, this is a book about making a cookbook. And I've just finished this journey, and we're going to be putting the book out. Thanks. In October 2025, We Cook Plants. But there were a few things about the process that shook me, I cannot lie. And that was, firstly, the amount of money an author can make, or in this case, the charity's going to make, from book sales, once you've gone through all the tickets and the publisher's expenses and the distribution, is tiny. It's really tiny, unless you're shifting like 100,000, 200,000. That's a different league. You can make a livelihood off that. But that surprised me. Maybe I'm very naive. Did it surprise you?
I guess not really, because I feel like it's similar to music.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really similar, like how it works is similar to kind of making music. But I guess Plentiful just feels like I dreamt it up. And in many ways, I feel like I did manifest it, because I just coldly like wrote, when I moved to Margate, and I was like painting walls in my like house. And I was thinking of what I was going to do with Dee's table next. I was like, so I didn't really know what the food journey was going to be. And I don't know why. I really don't know why I did this, but I just wrote a book proposal called Plentiful. So this was 2019. I just wrote a book proposal.
The creative urge came.
I was just like, oh, if I was to write a cookbook, what would it be called, and what would it look like? And so I wrote a very early version of Plentiful, but I didn't send it to publish. I didn't do any of that. I didn't follow through in that sense. I just had it, and I sent it maybe to like my music managers at the time. So, but I just didn't really do anything with it. And then I think like I signed the deal for Plentiful 2021, like a few years later. But it's just really strange that I just like, I guess I planted the seed, right?
Yeah.
But I guess people don't understand how much work goes into a cookbook. Like, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot. I am not scared of work. I have built an organisation from the ground up, delivered food to thousands of people. The cookbook was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, and people did warn me that. And I was like, I've been a journalist, I've been a writer, I've got this. It was a lot of work. It really was.
But rewarding work in a sense, yeah. And I feel like Plentiful, like, there's a lot of my film photography in it, and nice. So like my gaze of Jamaica, I think, shines throughout the book, and that kind of stuff is like, really important to me. And yeah, I mean, I loved it though.
How long did it take?
I love the process. It's really hard to say, because I feel like I did it in chunks, and like also just for my own sanity, like even the recipe development, like some recipes were like genuinely like driving me insane, and were trickier to get to, which in many ways made them a lot more rewarding to like, it's like, yes, this is finally right, I'm really happy with this, right? And so it's hard to say the timeline of it, because I remembered like the editing part, I did parts of that in Jamaica 2022, and then I wrote some of the recipes in LA because I was staying with a friend there, and then most of it was written in Margate really, when I was still living there. So.
And how did you find the editing process?
Oh God.
Because you already mentioned you don't like to repeat things. And I've gone through the copy of the entirety of this book like 1 million times now. And that is what's driving me mad, because I liked the storytelling, the creative endeavour. I even enjoyed the first proof. But when we got to the 5th, that's driven me mad. Actually.
Yeah, 100%. I found that the hardest. But in general, I find it really hard to focus, I think. So that was just maybe just that part of my brain that was just like found it just really hard to do that part of it. But there's also joy in that, because it's like making sure that everything's right, It's important.
Oh, it's so important. Really important. It's such important work. But my brain, it's like if I've read it for the 5th time, it's no longer interesting, and therefore
exactly,
I can't focus on the detail, and so I'm no longer doing a good proofing job. And I had to say to them eventually, I said, look, I've definitely got ADHD. I don't think I'm doing a good job of proofing. I mean, they have professional proofers, but they would share it all with me as well. And I'd say, I don't think I'm seeing the wood for the trees now, in all honesty.
Yeah. I struggled. That was probably the hardest part of Plentiful, to be honest, like for me. But it's really cool, you know, the editor that Lucy, shout out to her, you know, I feel like she was very patient with me.
I was about to say she was patient.
She was extremely patient and like, yeah.
It's a beautiful book with some really stunning recipes. And I don't know if anyone else does this, but if I want to treat myself, I'll get into bed a bit early and I will flick through a cookery book. And I had the best time when I was doing that with Plentiful. It's just so rich and colourful and vibrant, and there's so much flavour combinations that I've not encountered before. And there's both a combination of, you know, your heritage, but your lived experience and the places you've lived since then and the food you just love because you just love it. It's just a great sort of riot of delicious food, colours and creativity. So I highly recommend, if you've not got Plentiful, to buy it, because it would just be a joyful addition to your cookbook. Any favourite, to your cookbook shelf, any favourite recipes in there of yours?
Oh God, it changes all the time.
Oh, right now.
But I feel like for me, it's the pick up saltfish recipe, just because it's tied so much to like what my mum used to make. And so, yeah, I guess a lot of the food in the book, like as much as a lot of it is like my brainchild of like, you know, me just being creative and just ideas that I'm just kind of connecting. A lot of it's tied to like a lot of memories. And so pick up saltfish, like very simple very simple recipe in the book. Like it comes together in no time. But it's so good. Like I could eat that every weekend for breakfast, like with the green plantain and the like avocado. And
that's the sign of a great recipe. And it's called Jamaican recipes to repeat.
To repeat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when it's on repeat, you know it's a good one, because I think the stats are most people make 5 recipes from a cookbook and then it gathers dust on the shelf. And when you think there's normally between 70 and 100, you know if those ones that you've got on repeat, that
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So also on the cookbook, not all authors have a good experience making a cookbook. They feel that their personality or what they truly want to say is being suppressed in some way. And I've heard some really big authors privately complain about how they felt they weren't understood, or some of their personality was tried to be expunged from the book. I don't feel like that was your experience with your book.
I didn't have that experience with Plentiful. I feel very lucky, to be honest. Like, I feel like I was able to make the cookbook that I really wanted to make, which I don't think also, being really honest, existed. I think the tone of which that I wrote it in, I kind of wanted it to feel quite conversational and just like really have my personality and my voice through it, you know, so people could have like me in their kitchen almost, like in the back of their minds. Like, so yeah, I feel lucky in that sense. I do feel like you get my voice completely in the book.
You do. And it's a lovely voice to have in there. And there's a part of the cookbook you talk about your love of South and Southeast Asian food. Tell us a little bit about that. And where do you think that line is? And it's a really foggy line between cultural appreciation of food and cultural appropriation, because it's something that it's not set in stone, is it? And it's not either or. So how do you sort of dance with that and show your appreciation for that?
I think the reason why I thought it was really important to highlight that in the cookbook is because, and I see this quite a lot, it's like, oh God, am I going to get in trouble for saying this? It's just like, sometimes I see like as a quirk, like, or just a new cool food, or like miso, or like an ingredient that's been there for
thousands
forever.
Yeah.
And so like for me it was really important, because I guess especially in vegan food, like as a chef I'm constantly looking of the natural sources of umami, and for me that, you know, using soy sauce and miso and ingredients like seaweed, which aren't, it's staples for me as a vegan chef, but they aren't from my culture. So I think it's me saying that in many ways, like it's my appreciation, because like, and I think it was really important. But like I said, like I just see this, even just with the whole thing about how MSG is being rewritten as this like a cool, ingredient after years, decades of, you know, it being, you know, deemed as this bad thing, like don't, you know, all this kind of stuff, or like at the butt of like many jokes in like sitcoms and stuff like this, right? And this reclaiming of it in a way, but from the gaze of often a lot of like, I don't know, white chefs, like it feels kind of strange when I'm just like, people have been cooking with these ingredients for forever. And the same thing with even faux meat and like stuff like that, right? That
absolutely with faux meat. And Anna Soulon-Macing talks about this really well, about how a lot of the sort of tech bros and girls talk about faux meat like it's just been invented. And, you know, there's records of it being made in Buddhist temples thousands and thousands of years ago. Mock meats, mock duck, it's a rich culture that often gets completely, you know, not given its dues.
Exactly, not given its dues. And even you can talk about veganism to begin with, because you look at even the Rastafarian diet, like everyone's like, oh, it's so cool. Veganism is like this modern thing. It's like so many different cultures have been eaten this way, like beyond veganism being in the forefront of media right now. And I'm seeing it now with stuff like sea moss as well. It's just like, it's not a new superfood. Like people have been, you know, so I just think for me, it's really, 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 really important, especially because, yeah, it's food that I also love. It's food that I crave, and it's food that inspires me. And it's also not really my story to like tell, and I'm not reframing it as something new that I'm doing. So I think it's people forget I didn't discover it, and I think it's really, really important. I think people forget that like it's really, really important to, you know, be respectful. And yeah, I thought it was really important basically to highlight that in the cookbook.
No, absolutely. And I loved how you did it in the cookbook. And you also mentioned in the cookbook, I can't remember the exact sentence, but you say something like, please don't give me any shade for not doing all of the big Jamaican dishes. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, because I guess people have their expectations of what I should be making as a Jamaican chef. And I guess, like, I think that's a heavy thing to put onto me, because in an interesting way, it's like, even when I first started D's Table, I'll never forget, like, people would come up to the stall, they see like Jamaican food, right? Not even, they'll miss the vegan part, they'll see Jamaican food. And people would come up and be like, oh, have you got any jerk chicken? I'm like, no.
Well, they just like,
first of all, then it's like, what do you make then? I'm like, there's so much other food. There's so much more Jamaican food. There's so many things that I love. And I love jerk. I love it. It's like delicious when done correctly. You know, like it's a wonderful technique. It's a skill set. Like that's something that I think people forget about, as much as it's about the spice, and it's the method, it's how you do it, you know, with the pimento wood. And like traditionally, if you really want to get the best jerk, right, there's a way to do that, right? And so I don't want to just like half-assed do it and just be like, this is jerk, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so I think when I do jerk eventually, not to say that I haven't, like I've always had this bit of tongue in cheek with D's Table, because not forgetting the people that would come up to me all the time and be like, where's the jerk? Where's the jerk? I did this dish at, it was the first pop-up I did at Bustamantis, and I did this dish called Where's the Jerk? And
I love it.
And I did like a tamale with, because you have this porridge, hominy corn porridge. So like hominy is just like an interesting, wonderful texture, and it's just almost like a sponge. It just takes on so much flavor, right? And I feel like, and cornmeal, and so I made this kind of the tamale dough using a bit of hominy, a bit of cornmeal, and other ingredients, and I filled it with this like confit jackfruit, and so it's like the jerk is hiding in the tamale in many ways. It's subtle, but I made this dish called Where's the Jerk? Because I guess for me, like I said, it's a method.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't just do that anywhere. Like to me, like if I did jerk, I want to do it properly. Like I'm not going to just, I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like it's an art form, and
it's an art form.
Do it a proper, credibility. Do it well. Do it a good service.
Exactly. Yeah. And same thing with rice and peas. I guess. Like I don't think I've ever served it.
Ever seen that?
I don't think I've ever served rice and peas. I could be lying, but I feel like no, I haven't.
And that's obviously not because you're a rice and peas hater.
I love rice and peas. Right. I love it when it's done like with love and care, and like it's like, because traditionally, right, people make the coconut milk for it. It's like you have to soak the peas. It's also labor of love. As much as it's a rice dish that's normally served with other things, like when rice and peas is good, it's like you can eat that on its own. Like you get the flavor of the coconut. It's like the peas were soaked, so the whole rice, every grain is like got the flavor, the thyme, the pimento. Like it's just like a magical thing when it's done perfectly. But I don't know. There's something about it. Like for me, if I did do it, it would be maybe in a smaller seating. I personally feel like rice and peas is hard to do in a big volume, and also I just feel like it's very special, as much as it's like a very like common like side, which I love. Like I said, I love it. For me, it's like a really special kind of moment thing. It's like a labor of love, and so when I do that, I want to do it properly. I don't want to just like do it for the sake of having it on the menu, if that makes sense.
Of course it makes sense. And do you feel as a chef working in the UK, I mean, you might not even describe yourself as a chef, a food creative, a cook, whatever your preferred label is, do you have to fight quite consciously against being pigeonholed? Oh,
100%, because people, I feel like, even just with the certain language, like I could fulfill like a certain caricature of what Jamaican food should be from that lens, right? But I guess for me, there's so many other things I love about Jamaican food. There's so many dishes. It's like broader than just jerk. And I think sometimes just like, it's more than just jerk. Like, guys, like there's so many delicious things. And so my favorite thing was always brown stew. I loved brown stew. I love like soup. I love patties, right? That's like...
Which we're going to come on to now, for sure.
I love a patty and the soup. That's like actually my favorite thing. Also, I love ackee. Ackee is like my favorite thing of all time to eat. Like that's my like death row meal.
Just for people, because not everyone listening will be familiar with ackee, and especially some people will be familiar with it, but only from a can. So take people through ackee, from the tree to the market. I once bought a bag of it fresh in Kingston. It made my day for about the next 2 years, just holding this bag of fresh ackee, because I'd never seen it fresh.
Yes.
I'd only seen it in a tin. I was elated, and everyone was like, oh, you need to know who's picked it. You need to make sure who's picked it. So I just loved all the narrative around it.
Yeah, that's true.
And when people saw this white lady holding this bag of ackee, they'd come over and tell me, how I should do it and how I should be careful, which I was so appreciative for. I loved it. I loved the contributions people wanted to make sure I didn't get it wrong. But tell us about ackee.
Ackee, it's so funny. I had an ackee tree in my childhood home growing up, so lucky in that sense. But I guess, again, still like there's a lot of work to, when you're using the fresh ackee, right? Because naturally they open, and so you shouldn't pry it open. I think it releases a gas when it opens. It makes it safe to eat, as far as I know. So you then pick it out of the pods and you remove the black seeds, and you cook it in like boiling salted water, so that it's soft enough. But what's nice about the fresh ackee is that like it still holds its shape. It's not like, it doesn't get all mushy and stuff. And so I had the reverse experience, because I'd spent my whole life just eating fresh ackee. Like I'd never eaten like ackee from a tin until I moved to London. And so out of like necessity, like I guess it's like, this is the only way I can have ackee here. I had to make that adjustment to eating it here from a tin. And I guess I've gotten used to it. Like it's fine, like it's okay, it's fine. It's the same thing with callaloo, right? Like you can get it like fresh in a few places. I don't really see it that often fresh. There's a place in Stratford actually, and they seem to have like occasionally like really good fresh callaloo. But fresh callaloo is so much like it's miles ahead. Like as you can imagine from the one in the tin. It's like it's almost like a different ingredient, which it is like as you can imagine. So yeah, the ackee in the tin took some adjusting to. Even the patties here are so different to the patties in Jamaica.
In what way?
In literally every way. In literally every way. For some, and I'm trying to think maybe if it's through Windrush. I'm fascinated by food history and like how things like the fact that they're so different. There must be a reason. Behind that over here, like why are they so different? The thickness of the crust here it's a lot thicker.
Oh, it's thicker here, right?
Yeah, it's a lot thicker here in Jamaica.
If people are cold, like really cold, you want something heartier?
I don't know, but I feel like it's a lot thicker here than it is, and I'm noticing it because I'm fresh off the heels of like just coming back from Jamaica, and I had a lot, mainly for research purposes.
Of course, research purposes, 10 patties a day.
I was just having so many patties just to like really grasp what I loved about each individual patty. And I guess, yeah, the patties are a lot thinner in Jamaica. And over here, they're like, a lot of people use turmeric, but that's not what we use back home. So the color is different as well. Like you would see that. The hair, they're kind of like a luminous, sometimes like yellow color, but over there they aren't yellow.
What color are they?
They're kind of more close to like a warm, kind of orangey color, but they're thicker here. And back home, they're like, and so many things will make a difference as well. Because I noticed even the spices are more potent in Jamaica. So like the pimento is so much more. Like you can smell it. Like when I just did a chef residency at this hotel called Jamaica Inn, and they have this massive
amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Amazing. I was sort of there salivating over the post. Yeah.
But what blows me away is like, because everything is like kissed by the sun and it's so much more fresh, like everything just tastes better there. The Scotch bonnets are better, the thyme is better, the pimento is like more potent, more fragrant. And so all of that matters, with the flavor that you're able to get across. Like, and so those small differences, I feel like everything just did taste a little bit better in Jamaica, like even like in the simplicity of it all. But yeah, I feel like it's interesting because I wonder if it's like through Windrush or like replicating the patty here with what you had. And maybe
most likely, right?
That's kind of what I could think about, but they are very different, like a lot different.
And that leads us on to talking about your new project, Flaky. I love the title, geniusly named. I don't think you are flaky, but it's a brilliant name. Tell us about Flaky, and in classic your style, this was getting reviews in the Creative Review last year, just sort of the logo, the branding, the creative behind it, before the business has even launched. Yeah,
it's really interesting. I guess for me, Flaky is like, it's for the community. Patties are just so embedded in like my childhood, but it's also embedded in like most people's childhood that grew up in Jamaica. Like I feel like everyone grew up eating patties, and so it's important for me for this brand, Flaky, to be this joyous thing. And I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm making something that I want everyone to enjoy and everyone to be transported back to home in a bite. Essentially, that's kind of the aim with Flaky. And so that's also really nice because, like I said, with other things with my supper clubs or like stuff like that, as much as I am like I'm led by the new ideas in my brain, or like I'm chasing the kind of my like what I'm seeing on the plate, like and working backwards, reverse engineering. Like I'm already working with something that I know what it tastes like. Like I know what a patty is meant to be. Like I understand that, and so it's a slightly different thing because like I want to just make a nice patty that has to be accessible. It can't be expensive. Like, it has to be affordable.
Which, by the way, is a massive challenge to any producers of food right now. Balancing that cost of living, the price point you want people to pay, and being able to pay your team a living wage. It's a really tough gig, that.
Yeah.
How are you finding putting those pieces together?
I guess that is a challenge. But for me, it would be really wrong. It'd be morally incorrect to like put out, I don't know, like
£10 patties.
It just feels
Yeah,
insane.
Feel wrong,
it feels insane.
Yeah.
Like, why would I do that? That's not what that's all about, you know? Pardon me. And so, yeah, flaky for me is like a nod to my childhood. It's like so much nostalgia. Like, even going back to Jamaica recently, like going to a lot of the older patty shops, like the original ones that are like stuck in its time, and has the really cool like posters, and like that's where a lot of the inspiration for flaky comes from. It's like all those nods and references are very intentional, you know, referencing things that already exist. And so I think that's why maybe it's come across like so well, because people can see that. I mean, at least I hope. I'm just speaking, you know, on behalf of what I think. But and so, yeah, like everything matters, every detail matters. But like I said, with flaky, I'm like not inventing something new. I'm just recreating something that I already love, but I know that everyone else loves.
And when can we get our hands on these patties? When is it going live? Because it's been a little while.
It's been a little while.
It's been in the pipeline for
I know, it's been a little while, and it's been tricky. There's been like delays and stuff like that, you know, out of my control. But I'm working on it. I'm working on doing something fun and exciting that I can hopefully share soon. So yeah, I mean, I'm desperate to share.
And it's coming to Dalston Yard, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. But yeah, I'm desperate to share flaky, because like I said, it's a neighborhood bakery. It's meant to, as much as it is a passion project, like it's like beyond me, if that makes any sense. I want everyone to be invited in, and even if it's a vegan, it's also vegan, but it's like what I'd imagine and hope that it reaches beyond just the vegan community and everyone feels welcome to come, you know?
And that is what I feel is so important in veganism, and how I tried to ground Made in Hackney. It was always about inviting people in to explore and enjoy the diversity of plants and the richness of different cultural foods, where plant-based foods is such a strong foundation. And it was never for vegans and vegetarians. It was for everyone. It was for the community. And everyone needed to feel welcome. But the food would always be vegan. There would never be any movement in that. It's like, no, the food will be vegan. But I wanted to create something where people felt welcome and seen and like it was for them. And it's not always easy to strike that balance, but I think you absolutely will do with flaky.
Yeah, I'm really excited, even down to like the plates and like the art that will be in flaky. Everything is so intentional. So for me it's like a joy to work on it. It's like it's a dream project that I guess I'm creating for myself, because when I first started Dee's Table, the very early version of like my first ever patty recipe, it was like, it seemed crucial for me to try and replicate this part of my childhood, because like I said, I've just grown up eating them. And when you go back to Jamaica, when I go back home, it's like straight off the plain kind of snack that I go and get. Like, it's one of the first things that I want to get. So yeah, I hope I can connect those kind of my strong feelings about it, and I hope people get a sense of home from it.
And you said it's a joy, and that for me is one of the grounding principles of everything I want to share and do, that it needs to be grounded in joy as opposed to deprivation or lecturing or preaching or anything like that, like the joy of food and veganism and community. And I think that it's even harder. It's easier for me to strive for that. But as a black woman in the UK, joy is often a harder thing to strive for. From where I'm sitting, from what I can see.
But even more so a reason to exist joyfully.
Right.
You know, even more of a reason, especially, you know, also as a queer Black woman as well. That's also something that I feel like, you know, I feel like I'm trying to be someone that I wish that I had grown up. And it feels very rewarding to maybe, you know, I've had some like young kind of, I want to say kids. I feel like everyone's a kid to me.
That happens. Have you reached that point?
I feel like everyone's really young, you know. But even with queerness, I think stuff like that, you know, like being very proud of that and feeling very settled in myself as a person. You know, I was once not very settled in who I was, in both my identity and even just Blackness. I think it's so rich, it's so expansive, it's so wonderful, it's so beautiful, and it looks like so many different things. And it is a joy to express myself. And I think I lean onto Black women, and I'm inspired by women of colour, and they are for me the backbone of so many things that I do, from my mum, who's an incredible cook, but also someone that always pushed me to exist and dream beyond what sometimes I'm limited to as a Black woman. And I think it's really powerful to be able to do that and to lift yourself up, but also by doing that, by existing and doing the things that I'm doing, I feel like hopefully I'm setting an example, and I can, just by being myself, hopefully, I don't know, be a bit of validation for other people. I don't know. I hope so.
I'm sure you absolutely...
I don't know why I said it like that. But
And it makes me think of the phrase joy as resistance.
Exactly. Oh, it's important. And like one of my favourite things, because I feel like the world is in a not very joyful place. It's so much doom, so much gloom, so many of these world leaders that are... It's even hard, even in itself. Like I find myself just so many heavy sighs, just like on a daily basis. I think we have to exist joyfully. It's the only way. It's the most powerful act of resistance, actually, to actually say, you know what? No, I will do this thing. I will still create an environment where, you know, I can bring in community. I can. By uplifting my own voice, I'm also kind of creating an environment that others feel validated in those spaces. And so I think it's our responsibility in many ways to like kind of go on beyond, you know, these things. And like, I think that's what the queer community has always done as well. Like, you know, beyond everything and how the world sees us, like people, I think it's important, the queer joy to exist joyfully, you know? And so I think, yeah, like I said, I struggle a lot, actually. And it's something that I, you know, I've written about both musically, maybe not in food. It's something that I've been putting off, actually. Just, I find sometimes, you know, my creativity can be knocked by everything that's happening in the world. And I feel the weight of everything, you know, can affect my creative output. But it all boils down to the fact that we have to give ourselves the permission to, like, you know, do things joyfully. Like, it is actually really important. And yeah, I'm continuously inspired by Black women of colour. Like, I wouldn't be where I am without them.
And when you are starting to feel that downward pull, that downward suck by world events and world leaders and society and things you no doubt just experience in your day-to-day life, not just things you're watching on the news, but day-to-day interactions, how do you pull yourself out of that so that you can continue to do your work and reclaim that, no, I will create and I'm not going to let that suck me under. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing?
I think, first of all, like, you know, especially on my platform, I think it's like, as much as social media can be that onslaught of like all the kind of things, I think it's also important to use it as a tool to communicate lots of things, to uplift other voices, to listen to other voices. And I feel like I'm really grateful to have that sense of community, that when I feel stuck, and I don't really feel like kind of having that outpour, I can listen and I can look and I can feel inspired by what other people are doing. And I feel like community is everything. And we have to come together, you know, we have to look towards each other. We have to help each other. We have to listen to each other. So I think a lot of everything that's happening as well is me kind of feeling in this way, but also I think it's important to uplift other voices that need to be uplifted, and also listen and learn. And I feel like that has also been a kind of a big reason, like why I get back on my feet, is the sense of community, is like the voices in my community. And in food, there's so many inspiring voices. There's so many chefs that I love, you know, their food. When I feel stuck, you know, I feel very inspired by the work that they do. So I think community is everything to me. Like I'm literally like, and that's something that I've learned a lot in adulthood, like community, friendship. Yeah.
I could not agree more. And, you know, my motivation for Made in Hackney came about at a time when I felt so overwhelmed and lost by all the bad news in the world. And it felt like, no, but this is something we can do together, and we can build something that's different, that sits outside of that. And those things are still going to exist. I'm not deceiving myself that they're going to solve them, but we can build something that's different and that's an alternative, that's going against the narrative of just consume, think about yourself, just think about your own household. You know, it just doing something that was the opposite of that felt really important. And when I started it, I didn't quite know where it was heading and what shape it was going to take, but I didn't need to, because the community came and led that and shaped it how they needed it and how they wanted it. And that's something I never could have predicted. It's like I pushed the ball down the hill and then everyone else ran after it and made the ball their own thing and what they most needed. Yeah.
And you know what's really interesting as well, it's like, as much as you can feel alone in the feelings that you have, a lot of these feelings are universal. And that's also what I've learned through music. It's just like, you know, I've always written about this sense of what I call dread, of like just like feeling both powerless, feeling overwhelmed, feeling angry at what's happening in the world, feeling frustrated. It's just so many things, right? But it's not I'm not alone in this feeling. And I know this because I talk to other people and I listen, and that's validating in many ways. I think we're all experiencing this kind of same thing that we are feeling. And so the sense of community is important, in a sense that we need to, as much as we need to, like, you know, we have so many things to do, like we're pushed away from each other in our daily lives, because at the end of the day, we do need to make money, I guess, to live and to have shelter and like all that kind of stuff. We still need to work, you know? And so I think sometimes we do just feel quite alone in it. But I think, I don't know, community is also effort. Like, I think it's like, it's making the effort to support, you know, your community and to look towards your community, that I think is really important. It's something that I've definitely made an effort to do. And what does that look like for me? It's like showing up, and whether it's by supporting my friends in, you know, their endeavors, or like, you know, literally where I spend my money. And that matters obviously massively, how I use my platform to highlight a lot of issues or things that I care about, like, you know, being vocal, all of that kind of stuff adds up. As much as people don't think, you know, that it makes a difference, all of that stuff makes a difference, you know. So I think, yeah, I definitely center myself in community. It's really important.
And I find when you do that, communities always help you to be a better version of yourself. I always find that, you know, they do take effort because you're giving and supporting, but then you will get that shone back on you when you need it.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like it's interesting. That's kind of what I got from Margate as well. I think it's at the time I was craving that sense of community that I felt like I wasn't 100% getting in London, because it was existing outside of the hustle and the bustle and, you know, connected to nature to a certain degree. But it's community as well that's not performative in a sense. That's kind of what you kind of have to think about as well. Like, what does that show up as? Like, how does that look? And I think sometimes it is like, it's also being vulnerable and like all of these things that we're taught to kind of not outwardly do as adults, right? I think we have to, it's like the third space, there's so much work to do, but it's like creating like the third spaces as well, where people can go to and feel validated and seen. And that's also why, I'm not just hopefully going out on a tangent here, but like, it's like even our attitudes towards clubbing or like dancing or like these spaces where you can be yourself in a way that like all of that stuff is important. Like the spaces that you go to outside of your home, where you turn to, where you see people that see you directly back for who you are, you know? I think there's something, all of that stuff is really important.
And increasingly harder to find in London. You know, when I was growing up here, that we were awash with nightclubs, and more they're closing, rents are too expensive, etc. So
rents is too expensive, yeah.
Squeezed.
Yes, for sure. But I do think like people are creating, like, and that gives me so much hope. Like people are still like creating these spaces and environments where people can be themselves, and whatever that looks like people are following through, you know, on things that they want to exist. And I think as much as like, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of my peers or people I know that I met when I was like in my early 20s, like, and we're all like now in our 30s and stuff. It's like really nice because, you know, I would have seen them kind of create these spaces or like have these initial ideas and then now existing in, you know, via like their effort and, you know, in a actual physical way, which is really nice. When I think of like, you know, Black Girl Fest and like stuff like that, you know, it's people that I've seen kind of actualize those things. So I think it's like an effort, and it takes a lot of effort. Everything takes effort, but it's worthy effort, you know, and I think it's important.
And, you know, like you mentioned hope in that, and hope does always find a way. So even when you get squeezed and venues are more expensive, somehow creatives and artists and community gatherers and people will always find a way to keep doing that work. And that really inspires me. Yeah,
like it's something that, you know, I look towards, you know, I ground myself, I guess, in art. I feel very safe in art spaces, and I'm very thankful for them. Like, you know, if I feel internally lost or like I feel a bit sad, I go to an art gallery of my own, and there's something about those spaces for me that I can escape to, and I can have a quiet moment and I can return to myself. And same thing with music. Like I said, going out and like that's therapeutic, and like to be around a space of people that you trust. I think trust is actually really important in spaces like that, right? That's like a good feeling of like letting go and like dancing and being able to be yourself with, I guess, sometimes strangers, but those strangers might also see you, you know, in that same way. So there's something, I think spaces are really like those third spaces like are very important. Yeah,
absolutely. So just returning to food for a few minutes, you made me laugh so much on, I don't know whose interview it was or blog, but I had been feeling the rage about cauliflower steaks.
Oh, God.
For a good few years. And I felt quite alone in this because, you know, whenever I was taken to a really expensive restaurant for a birthday by a relative or something, which doesn't happen very often, but when it did, that would be the option. And I remember once it was one that was £20 and there was some like broth to pour on it, and that was it. And I could see my husband, he's 6'6", heart just sink going to the floor because that was what he was being given to eat.
Yeah.
What for you, perhaps other than cauliflower steak, is your vegan option of nightmares?
Oh, you know what?
There's many.
Oh, there's a lot. it's really hard to even pinpoint. I feel like the cauliflower steak is just like, for me, done well, it's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Like when you do it correctly, it can be like really nice, but it's the price point is like kind of what really annoys me. It's not the same, like it's being priced as a steak, you know.
Yeah, it's like
that really frustrates.
Calories if you're lucky.
Yeah, it's very it can be quite frustrating. I don't know. I think what's really tricky, like this is really hard to answer.
While you're thinking, I'll share one of mine.
Yes.
Once in a pub in Devon, I was served a roast where the meat had just been lifted from the plate and the outline of it, you know, like a sort of thing like the police would draw around.
No.
You could see the outline, and it made everyone at the table laugh, and they'd literally just peeled up the meat and served the vegetables with me with like the flecks around it in a pub.
Wow.
And I was like, oh wow, this chef hates vegans, don't they?
It's changing though.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
It's actually changed.
That was a while ago.
That's something that's changing quite a lot. I guess, I don't know. I feel like I get less outrage. I feel like there's the classic one of like the fries and a salad,
chips and salad.
That for me is still like, you know, I've had to do that mainly traveling traveling in different countries. Like that is just like, come on guys, like it's really not that hard. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a fear of like making something that is like not adequate or something, but it's just like you just do a bit of research.
Yeah,
it's important. It's like, you know, but yeah, I feel like that I've had to do that a few times recently, the chips and the salad thing.
Chips and salad flecks. When we travel, we take a little bag of nutritional yeast, flax and seed,
That's
black
smart.
pepper, and sometimes you add paprika. My son's just started, we call it the life-saving travel mix, and my son's 10, he started adding like smoked paprika and stuff to it. So if you're ever on a boiled rice flex or a chip flex, you can just
soy sauce.
Sprinkle it on. Yeah, you could, it leaks. That's the sort
it does
of thing.
leak.
Like,
or like hot sauce.
I need a dry carrying thing. You know, when you travel for a long time and we sprinkle that on, and that's kind of lifted us out of some holes a few times.
Or you know what as well kind of slightly offends me is like the portobello mushroom burger.
Oh, what? Yeah, you'd like,
just
it's
like
not
it's
a
just
burger, it's a mushroom in bread.
I think that one I'm just like, it's so unimaginative and like, you know.
Yeah,
it's just interesting, but I feel like it's changing. Times are changing, which is good. I think we're on the right like side, and I guess in London I don't really get that because I feel like I would outwardly pick, especially dining alone. There's so many incredible chefs at the moment that, you know, aren't necessarily like vegan restaurants, but that have really good like vegan options, like Rambutan. I don't even been to Rambutan.
I haven't, no.
Incredible. It's in Borough Market, Sri Lankan restaurant. Yeah, the vegan options there, delicious. I went to a Coco like a couple of years ago. Still think about it. Like, I mean, more on the fine dining side, but you know, they have a Michelin star now. Incredible, so well deserved. Easily one of the best meals that I've had. Samsa, I went last year. That was one of my favorite meals I had last year. Delicious, like maybe the best vegan Thai food I've had, just because it's so like. One thing I struggle sometimes with, especially flavors like that are just so punchy, vibrant, like spicy, all that kind of stuff. I feel like sometimes it's like it can fall a bit flat,
right?
Like because it's not as spicy or like as like it needs, like I find myself wanting more lime or like more everything basically. Whereas some site was really explosive. I would say it's explosive flavor, like delicious. Like the papaya salad, one of my favorite things of all time. Normally it has like some kind of fish like sauce or like even dried shrimp in it. So sometimes like automatically on the menu it's not vegan, but I think their one is just vegan as far as I know, or they just have a vegan version of it. Delicious. They also did this really clever fried papaya fritter salad that was so good. Like some are insane, really good. So I feel like yeah, there's so much good food in London that like it's not even, you know, some isn't a vegan restaurant, but they just have some really
delicious
insanely delicious vegan options.
A vegan afternoon tea girl? Does this do it for you, or it doesn't do it for you?
I enjoy it, but it's not something that I have often or I outwardly seek. But I do love the act and the theatre of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
I love
what
the
gets
theatre of
for
it.
me. I took my mum, bless her, when she was still alive, to the Ritz for afternoon tea. And despite the fact that it's, like sort of super colonial, you wonder where the money's come from, the theatre of it, the production of it, I did love it. But the food was terrible. It's like white bread, bit of cucumber. You're sat there thinking, I could have a better sandwich in just your average Kiwi coffee bar.
Yeah.
And that sort of blew me away a little bit. The sort of presentation was out there, but the actual food content is pretty minimal of a lot of afternoon teas when people spend so much money on them.
I haven't actually been to one in a minute. But yeah, I just love the theatre of it. I love it. And I think there's just it's the kind of thing that there's almost too many options now that I feel when there's too many options available to me, my brain, I just freeze. Like it takes me a really long time to decide on so many things, because I think when there's but I kind of like this part of this menu, but then I like this, and it just takes forever. But I do love it. I do love afternoon tea. Yeah.
And it's a fun. My family
love a
like
scone.
to go. Yeah, love a scone. And my mum, bless her, she was from an extremely working class background. They didn't have shoes and stuff when they were growing up. So when she got older and they got a bit more money, she loved china and the right fork for the right thing. And I didn't really, because I grew up very comfortably. But now I really connect it with my mum. That the sort of china and the cake stand and all the bits. And when my mum passed away, I actually gave a lot of her stuff, because there was so much. There was so much of this. There was only so much I could take, to Andy Oliver. And now Andy Oliver has boxes and boxes of my mum's treasures, vintage treasures.
That's nice.
So from Northern England, they were sort of collected and treasured over the years. And now they pop up in Andy's food sheets and stuff. And she'll send me little messages going, I'm using the grapefruit spoons. And I'm like, grapefruit spoons? What's a grapefruit spoon? But she really
very retro
appreciates those things. I wish they could have met, the two of them. I think they would have really got on. So if you're someone that struggles to make a decision, the quick fire round.
Oh God, it's the Libra in me.
Brace yourself. Let's see if we can do it. So, ready. Authenticity or health?
Authenticity.
Donuts or cookies?
Cookies.
Street protest or email protest?
Street protest.
Reading or watching?
Reading.
Train or plane?
Train.
Activism or influencing?
Activism.
Bike or bus?
Bus.
Oat milk or soya milk?
Soy milk.
Jungle or classical?
Is this music?
Yes.
Oh. Classical?
Early morning or late night?
Early morning.
Joy or rage?
Joy? But I would say
We need both.
that we need both.
Yeah, absolutely. And then do you have, for our Meet the Vegans, pass it on, do you have a book that you can recommend that you would like to pass on to our listeners?
Oh, there's a few, if that's okay.
Go for it.
So I'd say Ken Marie Mitchell. When we're talking about authenticity, I feel like that book, it radiates warmth and joy, and just with the photographs, which are so stunning, but then the recipes and the stories behind the recipes. Marie's writing is so wonderful. Not an outwardly vegan book, but there's lots of beauty and vegan recipes that I would recommend. A perfect gift. For vegan books, recently, Christina's book, Big Veg Energy, really wonderful. I went to her book launch recently, and that is a wonderful, colourful, creative book. And I've been doing some riffs on, before I went to Jamaica, I was doing a couple of riffs on recipes in that book. Very veg forward, which I love. I love veg forward cooking for me. And I'm very inspired by the seasons. And so I think that's a really great book if you really love veg and you're looking to do something different with it. Yeah, those are the two on my brain.
And do you have a documentary that you would recommend?
Oh, there's so many docs. There's so many things. I love Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. I don't know if you've seen.
I've not seen it.
You've not seen it?
It's been recommended. I need to watch that. It's on my watch list, but now you've put it number one. That might be tonight's listen.
It made me fall in love with her, actually, in like the most, she has such a like deep appreciation and love for food in a way that really reads on camera. But it's a wonderful documentary, and I guess it's talking about the importance of salt, fat, acid, heat. It's in the title, basically. Amazing documentary. Couldn't recommend it enough.
And what about a person or someone's work that you feel like needs, they need to be given their flowers for?
Oh, this is really hard because I feel like if I want to say food, obviously Nigella, right? But I think she's very loved universally.
Yes. Nigella.
She's extremely loved. I guess me as a person, someone that's changed my life in their work is someone like Bell Hooks, which is really, I feel like All About Love has changed lots of people's lives, right? In her writing. I'm a reader. I love reading. I'm constantly, what's really nice talking about community, I share books with my friends. It's got like a very communal library. Like I'm reading something at the moment that I can't really put down, that I'm like really obsessed with. And I'm already itching to give it to a friend. And so I lean on a lot of poetry and writing. And so I think Bell Hooks writing, which kind of makes you go have this like internal kind of thing, right? Like I love when a book kind of can do that to you. And I think at the time when I read All About Love, like I kind of really needed to do that just for myself. So again, I think universally loved and missed because she did pass away. So yeah.
And finally, your favourite vegan recipe. Tell us about the recipe, when you first made it, why you love it, all of the good stuff about it.
So it's weird to kind of maybe pick my own recipe, but it's mainly just the dish. It's mainly just the dish that it's honouring. It's like I picked Pick Up Saltfish. It's like one of my favourite recipes in my book, but I guess it's honouring a recipe that my mum used to make quite a lot. Again, very quick and easy, but so satisfying, hits so many notes for me. And it's just something I've just grown up eating. So I think that's what makes it special.
And have other people try to cook it for you and you're like, no, that just doesn't hit?
You know what? People haven't made that recipe for me, I guess. No, but I make it for people. Like if I have, in the past have had someone over, like it's just a really good weekend kind of thing to make because it's not overwhelming. That or ackee, I feel like I love ackee. Like I could eat it every single, maybe not every day, but I could.
It is divine. And then finally, we have touched on this a little, but what keeps you inspired? What keeps you getting out of bed every day and doing what you do, particularly in the current climate?
Community, and I think just creating by, it's necessary to me. It's important. Like I center my life around community and joy, and I think self-expression is like really important. And so I lean on the kind of mediums, food, music. Like I can get lost and cook for days. Like I really could.
Wow.
Like if I could, if I have time, I make time to explore in the kitchen. It's the kind of thing when I have a day off, I go to the farmer's market. I pick some nice ingredients, like blood orange right now is like banging season. So that's what I would do. On a Saturday, I would go to a farmer's market. I'll find some cool ingredients and get creative. So it's about like returning to myself. And so that's what's important is like outside of the world, like I want to come back to me. And making food is nurturing in the sense, but it's, centering that childlike version of myself. And just for me, I just want my childlike self to be the muse. So it's just like creating, that's what gets me up.
Denai, it has been such a joy to speak to you, and I'm sure there's just so much richness in that. People will get so much that they can take away and hopefully kickstart their creative dreams, be the creative that they've wanted to be, and now they have the permission to go forth and do that and know they just can go and do it. Get out the box, get out there and do it. Thank you so much inspiration. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
What an absolute joy speaking to Denai Moore, a musician, a food creative, a creative on all accounts. There was so much wisdom and richness in what she said about how to achieve our creative dreams, how to not get boxed in by perfectionism or what's trending or what's popular, but just to be our authentic selves, and then success will follow. There was so much richness that I will take from that conversation and apply to my own creative dreams and endeavours, and I'm pretty sure there will be for you as well.